because they didn't really, the prerequisites didn't match. So I'm like, no, I'll just finish accounting. I'm good. And I want to fight anyway. So I'm just finishing to finish where I started.
You're a fascinating guy. Hey, Mark, what have you got?
Yeah, no, I just want to give you a little background, Keith. So Chuck said earlier when he was fighting in Pancrase and some of the fights that he was taking before he started fighting in the UFC, like he said, things like knees and eye gouging and that stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff went. So then back, I'd say in the early, late 1990s or so, that's when kind of Senator McCain stepped in and started causing a shit show with everything. So, I mean,
knees to the head on the ground. The first set of rules made in New Jersey that with Larry Hazard allowed knees to head on the ground.
Okay.
First fight out there, my fighter, Gan McGee, he's a 6'10", 280 pound guy, big, good wrestler. Was in that fight, fought in that show, and he had this guy from Canada, I don't know what his name was, but he kneed this guy in the head, and Gan would pick his knee way up in the air and bring it down. It looked horrible. But he kneed him in the head about 8 or 9 times. Larry Hazard was walking out of the day. He looks at me and I don't know about those knees to the head on the ground. And lo and behold, we lost knees to the head on the ground.
Yeah, the sports clearly evolved, which has made it more mainstream, which has made it more viewable. And there's a contract with ESPN. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, there's that brotherhood that we have, and when you get in there, like Keith was saying, and you have one mission, and that's to knock someone out and kill them if you have to. But when the fight's over, you hug it up and you show respect with each other. How many fighters throughout your career, and I could probably think of 1 or 2, did you not have that love affair with after the fact because of maybe what was said prior, trash talking or things of that nature? I know you and Tito are highly documented. Is that for show?
I don't know. I don't as a person, I don't like him. I don't think he's, I'll stay. It's not a big deal. Look, I hear nowadays that, he's a good father, which that means a lot to me. So,
yeah.
If that's good, I just don't trust him. He's not. I don't think he's trustworthy. I wouldn't do business with him. I mean, well, he just had to retire from his mayor pro tem for taking.
I'm speaking of Tito.
He was taking unemployment while they were paying him.
I'm speaking of Tito. Just so Keith, if you don't know, I'm speaking of Tito Ortiz. He's a fighter that Chuck has a history with in the UFC. Some amazing fights, and have had a history after the fact, and that would be the only person that I would guess. But I like what you said, because you know what, if someone is a good parent, that's actually a strong quality.
This is his thing, right? This is his thing. I mean, Chuck turns out to be the nicest guy outside the ring, and not a not nice guy in the ring. It's just your competitor. You're competitive. You want to win. But what comes through, man, again and again, is what you value is friendship, people who stick by people, good fathers, right? And clear thinking, and people who don't let people down, right? I mean,
that's funny you say that, because that's what I always said. Even though I don't think I ever could, but my grandfather, I just never want to let him down.
Is he still with us? Did he ever get a chance to see you fight?
Nope.
Never saw you fight?
No, he saw me kickbox. But he never saw me fight in the UFC. But, I always joke around because he said that thing that everyone talked about not too long ago was I made a comment. I said, look, he said when I was 19 years old, he told me I could beat Tyson. You can beat Tyson. And I think it's kind of funny. Like now it's a serious question. Who won in a fight, you or Tyson? Which is right. I thought it was kind of cool. And then on the show I was on, he asked me, he's like, oh, so who'd win? So I said, boxing, probably Tyson. Street fight, he's got one shot on the way in. That's it. If he misses that first shot, it's over. But,
right. Good
Speaking
point.
of all this boxing and all the Jake Paul stuff and everything, have you been approached to get back out there and have a celebrity type?
I've had people talk to me about different stuff on it. I mean, but nothing serious and nothing, enough to get back in training and get back in the ring.
All right, so another shrinky question for you. If you were competing and someone, not you, obviously, because then we wouldn't have this question. If the person died, right, would that wreck you? Would it cause second thoughts? Would you just say, look, he was doing what he wanted to do. This is what we do. Tell me. I'm not going to speak.
I mean, for me, I can't say it because I've never killed anyone, so I've never done that. So I don't know if that might change it, but I would think the way I feel about everything in my life and the way I've kind of been raised. I mean, I think as long as I was playing by the rules, we went out there and did it, and it happened. I feel sorry for his family, for his friends. I feel really bad about that, but I was doing my job. I was out there doing my. We were fighting. He was trying to. It could have happened to me too. So I mean, I don't think I would. I don't think it would bother me, but as far as it goes, yeah.
Yeah. So it is not considered, and you wouldn't think, oh, I made an error. I went too far. As long as you were playing by the rules, it's not your job to detect when someone should tap out.
Right. I mean, I agree with that. But that's kind of like how I am with everything else now too. Especially at this age, like for me, like I've had friends. Why don't you just punk that guy? Like, why are you talking to him? And I'm gonna look. Because I could probably punk him, and 99.9% of the time, the guy's gonna make the right decision. But what if he doesn't? Has he done it? Has he done enough for me to put him in the hospital? Because that's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
He might not make it to the hospital. So for me to get confrontational with him like that, we have to be at a point where I don't care if he goes to the hospital. I don't care if he gets hurt. I don't care if I go to jail. So and there's not a lot of things that make me want to do that.
Right.
And there's not a lot of things that make me not care about me hurting someone else.
Right.
You were raised by great people. You have a martial arts background. You were taught that discipline through the arts at a very young age during your formative years, and I think that's carried through, through your whole life. And you're able to have that switch and make that conscious decision. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. In a cage. I mean, I had a personal situation where a punk kid caused some issues within my family. Thought he was a tough guy, kind of got in my face, but I'm a licensed detective. I hold a license that if I lose my livelihood and I lose my ability to support my family. But my brain said to me, and I'm 52 years old, and I'm saying this to a 23-year-old kid who's in my face. I said, look, this isn't the time or the place for it. But if you so choose, I'm down at Lausanne MMA, 3 times a week at this time. If you want to come down, we can spar and we'll settle it there and we'll walk out and shake hands. He never showed up.
Got it. So let me get a little confrontational with Chuck, since I'm only on Zoom. Thank God. So no, if I said, listen, I think you're missing one piece of the puzzle of your personhood, it would be this, right? So what I don't know if you have, but I'll ask you the why, as to why your dad would have felt as though he had to leave when you were 3. I'm not saying it was right, excusable, but it might be describable. What was going on in this guy's mind that he thought that was the thing to do? And do you have that answer?
I mean, okay. I look back at it now, I didn't look at it for a long time, didn't think about it, but I thought about it a lot because I guess he was very abusive to my mom. So he actually took a shot at her when he was pregnant. She was pregnant for me, and she had to check his gun at the door. He was a cop. And I just remember when I was about 9 or 10, my grandfather came out, and the nicest guy in the world. We're calling him Smiley. He's everybody's dad. My friends come over to the house. He'll make him. Oh, Chuck's not here. I'll make him breakfast, make him lunch, or whatever. Nicest guy in the world. He came out. I saw that motherfucker, and never cussed. He said that had his billy club and his gun, and he left. Didn't come back. I'm like, when I found out later what it was, he thought he saw my dad. So that I kind of thinking back now. I'm like, well, maybe that's why I didn't come back. But, he knew my grandpa was gunning for him. So
right.
Got it. Wow. Amazing.
From your grandfather. Let's switch again from Shrink. Chuck, you have
You're like, look, enough. This session's going on a long time.
Gonna hunt me down and knock me out. You have a lengthy career. You fought a lot of great people. What are I guess your top 2 most memorable fights or moments as a UFC fighter?
I mean, number one, people ask me all the time. I love my career. There's been a lot of great moments, especially growing the sport and being involved in all that. But I mean, if I have to pick something, put a gun in my head, I pick something. I mean, beating Randy the first time after we just won the show. My team won the show, and then it was the biggest pay-per-view we had by I think 3 times, maybe 4 times since forever. So it was and I finally won the title I've been after for so long, and I eventually lost. One of the things. And then the other one was I think would have to be, if I had to pick one, it would be the first Tito fight, because I got to do what I told everybody I would the whole time.
Got it.
And
Great fight. And Keith, just so you know, you keep saying the show. There's a show that's very popular. It's called The Ultimate Fighter.
I was on the first season of Ultimate Fighter, and actually my manager quit at the time over me not fighting for a new contract and doing the show instead of extending my contract, putting 2 extra fights at the end of my contract and doing the show. I'm like, man, it's going to be on free TV. I got to be on this one. I got to be in this.
There you go. Right.
And that's where he met my friend Alex, was on the show.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that show skyrocketed the UFC to where it is now.
It not only got a free fight on TV, on free TV, and then the Bonner Forrest fight was just an amazing fight to be the main event. You could ask for a better fight to show off MMA.
Yeah. What do you think of the sport now and how it's evolved and where it's at?
I think it's great. I mean, it's going to keep getting better. I mean, guys are now learning from the beginning. They're training from the beginning and everything. When we first came in, we were all trying to figure out how to put it together. We got a wrestler here, we got a striker, a jiu-jitsu guy here, a striker here. We're just all coming together. How do we blend all this stuff? Now they got strength coaches, nutritionists, got head coaches that know how to put everything together.
Can you give me some advice? Because Saturday when I was rolling with some Yahoo, I know. And my wife gives me a hard time for doing this. So first of all, my wife doesn't quite understand the whole guy touching guy thing. She doesn't get that whole wrestling mentality that's been in my blood since I was 12, which and then terminology like mount and, high crotch in wrestling and certain very, sketchy terms. My wife struggles with that, but give some advice for me at 52 years old. I hurt my ribs Saturday. Someone was trying to throw an arm bar. I think 25-year-old kid, I'm 52, and it popped. And should I still be doing this at my age? Because
yes, pick and choose your opponents.
Yeah.
Be at your age. I mean, it's going with it I used to get guys that used when I was training, I get guys that try to put a headlock on and try to crank your neck. I'm like, look, man. I'd be like, look, let go of my neck, or I'm gonna put my forearm in your face. I'm gonna put my forearm in your face and push you off. You're not gonna like it. But it's like, it just, there's no. I mean, I roll with really good guys. That one, it makes it's better. It's, you got better competition. Yeah. But 2, they're not gonna hurt you for the sake of hurting you.
Yeah, I mean, I typically roll with guys
this guy.
Yeah. Well, I always roll with guys that aren't going to hurt me. It was probably a combination of me just being a stubborn old man, thinking I was 25 years old and I should have just, let him get the armbar and tapped. But I didn't. So, do you still use this sport or use your training? Like for me, having kids that have a serious disease, my training, and I've told Keith, is my Prozac. It keeps me.
No, I agree with that 100%. I mean, it was really weird. I got my hand piece of glass, and after I retired, couple flexor tendons.
Yeah.
I had 3 surgeries to fix it because it's the first one snapped in 8 weeks, and so I had to do it again. And I wasn't able to hit it back for the first time since I was like 12 years old. I hadn't hit it back for a year.
Wow.
And I was getting really, I didn't really, and I couldn't wrestle either, and I couldn't do jiu-jitsu, so I wasn't able to do any of the stuff that I wasn't able to spar, wasn't able to hit people. I was really not understanding why I was so on edge all the time. I like snapping that stuff that I normally didn't snap. I'm like, it was getting to the point where I was just like, really, like, what is wrong? I had to think about, okay, don't snap. Like I wanted to snap, but I didn't. And until I started hitting the bag again, I realized that's where I shut off. Like I shut my brain down. I let myself just get there, and I get everything out on. I hitting the bag wrestling. I can actually not think about something. Like my brain runs all the time. So I'm
Like meditation.
yeah, it's like meditation. I'm just thinking about how to beat you. I'm not wondering about what's going on over here, or that meeting over there, or that job over there. All I'm worried about is how can I set this guy up to get through here. Same thing when I'm sparring. I'm just trying to set you up and get back, land something, and having that release, even three times a week is huge for me.
You know what?
Keep that. It's almost like keep my tank low. So it takes a lot to get it up here.
I'll say real quick.
I'm idling here.
My wife, although she doesn't get it, if I'm just being a grouchy bastard, she's like, get your ass to the school and train, because and Chuck just said it, his mind's everywhere. I'm the same way. And the only time I can say that my mind is only focused on one thing and one thing only is when I am practicing martial arts. There is nothing else in the world that keeps my brain from thinking about 400 other things at once. Maybe it's because you have to protect yourself and survive. Maybe that's the reason why, and not get hurt. But yeah, it really is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, listen, a couple things. First of all, I want your opinion on something, Chuck. It's very appealing since, it is what I do, for me to think what you just, he's going to call. He's going to call.
Well, how cool is this?
All right. No,
awesome. It wasn't even me. Well, you all right for time?
No.
Yeah, we're going to end it. We're going to end it in a minute.
Hold on 1 second. That was just the gate. I just make sure they let this guy in.
Okay.
Why does Chuck Liddell need a gate? You are a gate. Dude. Who wants, it's like saying a Doberman, like there should be, it's like, stop.
The Doberman should have like a German Shepherd.
Who's trying to get in the Doberman's house? Like, no.
Hey, can you let Sean in?
Not a thing.
And who's going to question Chuck Liddell for even taking a phone call? I mean, you could get up and take a shit right now and I wouldn't say anything to you.
So here's the.
I just realized I forgot. We were draining the pool, and the guy was coming to fix everything. So
Keith, ask your question, and then we're going to have.
Here's the question. So first, so I'll just ask the question. The observation we can do another time. The question is video gamers. Okay. What do you think? What do you think about this whole movement toward things that are not kind of like physical and in the moment, if you will, the movement toward high tech? What do you think? What's your thought on that?
High tech. I mean, I'm not mad at anyone for doing it. But I don't. People got to be active. If you're not active and moving around, and
yeah.
And just getting out and playing and shutting off your phone, shutting off your stuff, go out and have a good time. like relax.
Yeah.
I get caught up sometimes too when I doing too much of this and too much of that. I really, have to, what, I'm just gonna put this down. I put away out of reach. So I'm not sitting there just out of habit, just going down looking at my phone. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, we made like our kids, we make them go outside, we make them play. But, one of my favorite thing, they did an interview about a year and a half ago. Someone was interviewing my kids, and they asked both of them separately, without being coached, without knowing what was going on, what their favorite thing to do was, and then both of them said play outside. I'm like,
Yeah, it's so true.
that's awesome.
So
What
true.
kid says that nowadays? That and I will say I follow Chuck on Instagram, and throw me a follow, will you, Chuck? And if you haven't already. And I always see him putting video or pictures up with his family, and they're either snowboarding or skiing or doing this. So then I see Chuck at the range, so you are a very active guy. You're someone that, even though we're the same age, technically I can look up to you because I'm only 5'7" and you're a hell of a lot taller than me. As a man, as a father, from what Alex tells me about you as a human being, really endured me to you. And the fact that, I think the connection with us, I think you saw the type of dad I am with my kids, and, weren't afraid to, make friends with me, so to speak. So, what are you doing now? What do you plug in? How do people find you, when this launches?
At Chuck Liddell. I have a show we're working on, No Chuck's Given, should be coming out soon. And
Cool.
then I've got a few other things I'm in the works, but just at Chuck Liddell on Twitter, Facebook, whatever,
Super.
Instagram, all that stuff. And yeah, so
You're the man. You know what? UFC.
Great meeting you,
Hall of
man.
Famer,
nice talking to you.
Chuck Liddell. Thank you so much, champ. And we'll be in touch. Take care.
Take
All
it
right.
All right. Bye now.
Take it easy, buddy.
easy.
Wow. You know what? What do you think of that guy? Are you going to become a UFC fan now? Are you going to go to YouTube and start watching?
I already was I'm a minor UFC fan. My son and I have gone to bouts and so forth. So I like it. And I like the fact that there's plenty of there with Chuck. Like, if I were to prescribe one thing for him, and I didn't give him this observation, but he might see it when he watches the podcast. If he does, he needs the why. He still doesn't have it. He's guessing at it. Can you imagine a guy with his success, who's been through what he's been through, elected to not have no contact with the guy who left him when he was 3? Because he's terrified. And he didn't tell me, by the way, he's going to be mad at me when he sees this, but I hope he does see it. He's terrified to go there.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, he's now deceased, he had said.
Well, but there are people to ask, why did dad leave? And
Right.
the thought he has in his mind is, I think it has something to do with my grandfather threatened him when he was at no, it doesn't. It has to do with all the story before that as to what happened to his dad that left him unable to be a stand-up guy.
Yeah, you know what? And I think he faces, I think one of the other things maybe that a lot of celebrities face is that a lot of dads or parents, it can be moms also, that leave a family dynamic or leave their child and come back when their child is famous. That happens more often than not. So, how genuine is it when someone's coming back when they've already
Not genuine at all.
Right. So that's, for me personally, if that happened to me, I don't have a problem cutting people off myself either, if I have to,
And by the way, my fantasy here is not that they'd walk off into the sunset together, but instead that Chuck, who seems like a golden guy, wonderful guy, that he would have the opportunity to fill in the blanks. And it doesn't mean that he throws his arms around his dad's shoulders, but for him to be able to say, okay, right, got it. So you were broken that way. So I'm not unlovable. I know that because my grandfather was there and so was my mother. But in terms of, you, dad,
Right.
quote unquote, I see sort of the way that things came down the pike at you.
Right. Well, I mean, I've gone through a similar situation with him where I was put up for adoption and, and then found my biological mother and, had those questions prior to finding her. I didn't have fame and fortune by any means, but I had questions that needed to be answered that I was able to answer. But when I found my biological mother as an investigator and someone I like to think that I have, I'm pretty smart and have a sixth sense to things. I didn't think I was getting the truth from her because then I started to get stories from other family members but what she told me, was a bag of shit that, why she put me up for adoption. And then I'm like, what makes more sense?
Right.
And it wasn't her story.
Yeah, so she's just not coming forward with the truth.
No, just be honest. Honesty, it works. I was told that my biological left me because she was forced to put me up for adoption. Then I'm told from someone else that no, she wasn't forced to put me up for adoption. She was too consumed with her career and in being young and partying, and that's why she put you up for adoption. Well, just tell me that then, because I really don't give a shit either way.
Yeah. And that wouldn't, by the way, that wouldn't be the whole story either, because she doesn't have access to the whole story, your biological mother, because if she said to you, listen, I put you up for adoption because I loved partying, I wanted my own time.
Yeah.
Then the next question is, man, you were that broken. You were that needy of attention. What happened to you, Mom, that you would have traded the experiences of motherhood and sold me out that way?
Who also already had another child at the time, which throws a whole new dynamic into it.
It does. It really
had a
does.
2-year-old at the time from another gentleman, and just didn't want the responsibility of 2, I guess. Yeah, which to me, I feel like, and I told her when I found her, no, I'm not trying to spin this about me right now, but that was the best gift I was ever given in life, because I
finding her.
No, being put up for adoption.
Being put up for adoption. Got it. Yes, of course.
Because my life was wonderful and I was loved, and so there's a lot of stuff. So, there's some parallels between the Iceman and myself. I'm certainly not as tough as him. What's funny is I met Chuck before I actually knew him in Boston. So a friend of mine who owns Yale Appliance and Lighting in Boston, it's right off the expressway. He hired Chuck to do
well, I hope they paid for the plug, but go on.
Yeah,
no, I'm only kidding.
Trust me, I'll be reaching out for this.
Free lamp or something.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, let's get better lighting on this.
Something, outlets, something.
Yeah, he was doing commercials for them, picking up like refrigerators and washing machines. This is back when he was the UFC champion. So I had an opportunity to hang out with him in the green room when he was doing it. And he was the nicest guy back then. And that's when he was in the height of his career and his fame, when he had the ability at that time to be, a little full of himself, but he wasn't.
Well, it's interesting, people on the sporting and psychological side, it's fascinating to get a window into a guy's mind who is that settled, pulse is not racing. He's got a job to do, and he has no misgivings. Like if you die, that's part of the risk you took.
Yeah.
And it's not going to haunt Chuck Liddell, right? Because, and I would say it's number one, because, well, that's who he is. And, that's what the sport is. Okay, that's fine. But it's also somehow wrapped up with, hey, look, a guy leaves you when you're 3 and tries to come back when you're famous, and you tell him, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
So if you get in the ring with me, just understand, this is what we decided to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
fascinating.
Crazy.
I hope you would take mercy on me. Like if I fought him, I hope he'd be like, look, Keith, I'll hit you once. And I mean, just go down.
The way that you laid it out, it sounded like, you were going to have like a charity match with him or something. And he's like, of course I'm not going to kill you.
He says now. I mean, yeah, right, exactly. Wait till I get in shape and I'm walking in like a real menace, and then who knows what happens.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
kidding.
on that note, let's wrap up this episode of Violent
All
Minds.
right.
And then, until the next one, I'm Mark Chauppetta. That's Dr. Keith Ablow, and we'll see you on the flip side, everyone.